Had we not found Jim Davidson and Avant, I can tell you that we would not be where we are today. We have essentially doubled in less than 12 months, and we are more profitable today than we ever were before. I attribute that 100% to Jim Davidson and the Avant team, his willingness to be frank with us, his team's willingness to step in, the calls on a Saturday, the calls on a Sunday, the call I had with him this morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's Jim's dedication to his clients. I don't know how he has the time to do it all, but he does, and he brings value in everything that he does. But what we found, though, was we were growing so fast. You know, if you take us back pre-COVID, just this pre-COVID era, you know, we had 460 employees and 7 offices. And what we do is we perform kitchen and bath remodeling. So we go out to consumers and we tear out their kitchen. We deal directly with the homeowner and we put in a new kitchen, or we reface the kitchen, or we tear out their bathroom and we replace their bathroom. So we're engaged directly with the consumer. So it's a very involved process. We're general contractors and we manufacture all of our own cabinet products. So what we found, you know, was as we've gone through this, you know, family business, if you will, was there was a time when we now needed to start looking at it as a business. And we needed to really, you know, while we always knew it was a business, we weren't business people. So, you know, I dropped out of college. My brother's here as the CFO. Yes, he has a degree in finance. Mom and dad, you know, dad barely graduated high school, if he even graduated high school. And so there wasn't really a lot of formal education of how do you take a company and make it a $100 million organization and carry it on for generations beyond just my generation. My son works here now, so the third generation's here. My nephew works here. So it's starting to continue to grow. So we got to the point where we said we need to make decisions. And we need to decide now, we were about 55 million at the time, we need to decide now, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue to grow the company? Are we going to make it long lasting for the next generation? Are we going to continue to run it like a mom and pop business? Or are we going to formalize this into, you know, what it can really be? And so I got introduced to this guy named Jim Davidson. And, you know, if you ever get the opportunity to meet Jim, I would greatly encourage you. He's very, you know, there's one thing I've noticed about Jim specifically is he cares. And he's not there to sell you something. He's not there to sell you a service while he wants to do the work for you. What I really noticed about Jim is that he genuinely cares about doing good by people. And so that was kind of the way our morals were and the way our belief system was. So right out of the gate, it was an automatic, you know, it was an automatic connection. Jim asked those questions. Where are you going? How are you going to get there? And do your financial packages really show the results you want to show to get to where you're going? And so he exposed us to the sins of having a family business. He exposed us to the things we weren't necessarily doing as big corporation does it. And he said, listen, we need to get you on a path. And we need to get you on this path from where you are to where we know you can be. And so for the last several years, Jim's been working with us exactly on that. And it's not just Jim. He's brought in multiple people. He's brought in an interim CFO for a time being to help us orchestrate some changes. He's brought in controllers. Actually, one works here, is here every few weeks working with us. So it really became a relationship. I consider Jim a friend. And I consider them, most importantly, a very trusted advisor. And quite frankly, and Jim Davidson will know this, is, you know, it's turned around the business. You know, we are now this year going to approach over $100 million in sales and revenue. We've grown over 610 employees on the team. We now have 9 offices, and we're opening up our 3rd state here in the next month. So we needed this guidance in order to get us to where we need to go. And there's one thing I learned early on being the CEO here at Reborn and being at the helm was that I don't know what I don't know. But what I do know is how to pick good trusted advisors. And I always look out there for the very best that I can find, the very best person in that specific industry to help guide me to where I am. And I fully believe that Jim Davidson and Avant is exactly that company. You know, when I look back and I think about, you know, what might be some of the big milestones that Jim's helped us accomplish, you know, one comes to mind in that, you know, when he sat with me, and I can tell you a story. So I sat with him once in a meeting, and Jim knows this, and he told me the true hard facts. He said, Vince, the way your numbers look, not good. we got to make some changes. And he almost brought me to tears because Jim's not afraid to have those difficult conversations. And I said to him, Jim, I get it. I need you to help me. And so what he did was he then proceeded to bring his team in, work with us. And he said, you know, what we got to basically do is make sure that there's no chink in the armor, right? No crack, nothing wrong with it. And that what we look at from a financial package standpoint, it just looks perfect. And if we can do that and get you on that road, when we come back and look at bringing in some additional funding to the company, bringing in other investors into the company, we'll be presented in the best light. And that's what Jim really brought to the table. I would have no idea how to do that. I didn't understand the way that Jim looks at a balance sheet. And I think that that was a key driver to our relationship and also positioning ourselves where we are today. You know, if you ever get a chance to ask Jim about Reborn, he'll tell you that in a very short window, we flipped this thing on its head. And I think that is all attributed to 100% Jim Davidson and the Avant team.